Welcome to the Just Music Podcast. I'm your host, Jalen Williams. Marco is not on this interview that we have, but I'm very excited to introduce y'all to somebody who's definitely well accomplished in the music scene and the art scene here in Charleston, South Carolina. Had the pleasure of meeting him, I want to say a few months ago, I think it was. It was at a creative arts slash networking event hosted by the Creative Mornings Charleston. Shout out to that amazing organization. But I've had this guy's name be said to me multiple times. So when I heard that he was going to be at that event, I was like, I'm definitely going to go introduce myself to him. But he is he does so many different things in music. He's a musician. He's a singer. He's can I also say composer? I mean,
No, not a composer, but I can arrange for someone to transcribe.
okay. So, singer, musician, arranger, and also founder of the Color of Music Festival, which we're also going to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, Lee Pringle, how you doing, sir?
I'm great, Jalen. I'm excited to be a part of your show. And actually, we met when you were in college on a Zoom call that Dr. Karen Chandler
That is
had
right.
as a guest, and you were one of the students.
That is right. Yes, absolutely. Shout out to Dr. Karen Chandler. That's
Yes.
one of my favorite people. She is incredible. And yes, I remember that. I believe it was Understanding Creativity. I think that was
Exactly. It was
the
that class. I had myself and subsequently the CEO of the design firm that I use,
class. Mhm.
Big Creative Services, Tom Galmarini, was also a guest because I think Dr. Chandler was connecting you all with all the things that arts administrators have to do. And that just happened to be one of the topics. And I was
Yeah.
happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure to hear from you and just hear your mindset and perspective. Because I mean that class in general that Dr. Carolyn Chandler was teaching was incredible, and she's just an incredible person,
She
just an
is.
amazing woman.
Yeah,
So,
she
but
is.
you kind of already opened up the gates, so let's just jump right in. So talk about and you can kind of start wherever, but talk about where you're from and how did you find yourself getting involved in music in the arts.
Well, I actually started like most rural, unincorporated uh, settings that folks from my community, the Black community in Berkeley County, encountered, and that was the Black church. In this case, it was a Mount Pisgah AME church. The church is still there. It was founded by my great-great-grandfather, Ison Pringle. And I sang and listened to and experienced and absorbed my family members singing unaccompanied, perfect pitch, coming in and basically using a washboard and a bass drum. I'm not exaggerating. I'll be 60 this year, so that kind of tells you I'm from that generation
Right.
when people actually had a piano, but it was an untuned piano in the corner. Nobody could play it. So as time progressed, relatives became proficient in keyboard and so forth. And so really I started in church and was very lucky to have music educators. My first music teacher was a woman by the name of Mildred Gilmore Brevard. She was a phenomenal woman. She not only was a teacher, music education teacher, she was a songstress. She performed during many Piccolo Spoleto events with the legendary Lonnie Hamilton and the Diplomats. And as a kid, you don't know that your teacher has a life outside the classroom. So I just knew her as my band director. But she went to South Carolina State College, which is now South Carolina State University. And, their program, I don't know what it is like now, but back in that time, I mean, they put out some incredible musicians. One of our big luminaries, who's a South Carolina State University alum, is Charlton Singleton, who's a
Mhm.
member of, Ranky Tanky, and just known for his incredible work.
Right.
So I was very lucky to have a music educator that exposed us to all types of music, from soundtracks of the 70s on television shows to all kinds of things that we played in band. So that sparked my curiosity, and that kind of kept going all through my military days. When I spent 8 years in the U.S. Navy, I organized groups to go sing at convalescent homes and what we used to call back then old folks home. um, and coming back to Charleston after the military and getting involved with the Charleston Symphony Chorus, the Charleston Men's Chorus. I sang in that group for many years, and starting the Charleston Gospel Choir, which was an official affiliate of the Charleston Symphony for 12 years when I
Mhm.
started it. And that led to me starting Color of Music. And so that's the Reader's Digest chronologically of how I got into this space of producing classical festivals.
Right. Okay. Now there's a few things that I want to unpack there. So one, it's really interesting that um and a lot of people, a lot of musicians, start in the church. I started with band and at 12 years old, and I didn't start getting involved in church and doing music there till college.
Uh-huh.
I was a bassist for Mount Zion AME Church downtown
Yes.
Charleston. So
I know Mount Zion very well. I produced some
yeah,
concerts there.
yes, I
Alfonso
remember.
Brown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember we had that conversation, and I remember I think it was my freshman or either my sophomore year or something like that. I believe you put on a concert at Mount Zion AME Church. I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly
Yeah, I
what
did a
it was.
couple. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it just goes to show how small the world is and how small Charleston is. And when you mentioned how, you came from a generation, an era where, it wasn't necessarily a lot to work with as far as music.
Nope.
So you really had to have great teaching and
Hmm.
also have to have um, a will to, really perfect and master your craft. Whereas today, in my generation, we have all these different,
Tools on
resources.
your laptop and GarageBand and everything to
Right.
create stuff. Sibelius for composition and arranging. I mean, it's just all kinds of things. And I will just add that generationally, every generation has this unique, what I would call expansive leap towards something that seemed primitive at one time. And I have an incredible ear for picking out wrong notes, particularly in choral settings.
Yeah.
Although I have directors who prepare the choirs, I sit in the tenor section because I usually end up having to sing. There's not enough tenors. And because I'm not a choir director, I can conduct a choir if I need to, but I like to leave that to folks who perfect that. I can literally sit in the middle of the choir and know when the altos are off, sopranos are sharp, flat, or their consonants, and the way in which they're saying the phrasing is not good. And I always say teachers multitask with their ears, and sort of choir directors, because they have so many people in the room. Sometimes it's good to have a technical person sitting in there. And that's why teachers have observations. I don't know how often they do it now, but you get in this routine of how you prepare people. You kind of forget about some of these other things that are going on.
Mhm.
So for some, it's not a good fit to have a producer sitting in the choir setting, but I'm just one of those guys that I've learned not to work with choir directors who can't handle that. And it's just not a good fit. Doesn't mean that they're not good people and I'm not a good person. But
Right.
yeah, I think that all those things you hit it right on.
Yeah, and I really like how you put an emphasis on having a strong ear. Because I believe as musicians, whether you're a singer or you play an instrument, really developing that ear is so vital. Um,
Mhm.
because and I'm gonna get kind of nerdy for a second. So for those who are listening and don't understand what I'm talking about, it's okay. But because when I started doing music in band, I was more so focused on, just reading music, learning what's on the page, and play what's on the page, and know all your dynamics and things like that. But then when I started teaching myself bass guitar, And then when I started teaching myself music theory, that's where I really started to develop my ear for music. So not just being able to play what's on a page and, make sure I play all the right notes,